Our Lady Fatima is the name given to an angelic vision of Virgin Mary, following the famous Marian apparitions that were reported back in 1917. She's also known as Our Lady of the Holy Rosary of Fatima, or just Our Lady. Today, we're going to cover Fatima's 3 prophecies, 2 of which have already been fulfilled, while some say that the 3rd is still yet to come. Before we start, I'd like to mention that this video is brought to you by Oranum. Oranum is an online psychic network that specializes in reading your future. On Oranum, you can connect with psychics, healers, and clairvoyants from all over the world. For just $9.99, you can get your first psychic reading done today by one of Oranum's world-renowned psychics. The link is in the description. In the spring of 1916, a 9-year-old girl by the name of Lucia Santos was out herding sheep with her cousins. While tending to the Portugal-based pasture, they claimed to have been visited by the apparition of an angel, who identified himself as the Angel of Peace. The girls say that the angel taught them prayers, taught them sacrifices, and how to spend time according to God's will. A year later, in the spring of 1917, the girls reported another sighting, this time an apparition of Virgin Mary. The girls described her as a lady more brilliant than the sun. The girls claimed that Mary told them of an impending Great War, which many believe to have been reference to World War I, and that on October 13th of that same year, she would make herself known in the form of a miracle, so that all can be made aware of her presence. Following this, local newspapers began to report on the story, with news quickly spreading throughout the country and later throughout the world. The girls' visions were almost immediately questioned and disregarded. However, on October 13th, the girls' claims were realized. Leading up to the day that many would call the miracle of the sun, there had been an intense rainfall in the local area. Regardless, it's estimated that up to 100,000 people came to bear witness to the event that the girls' visions foretold. According to eyewitness accounts, after this long period of rain, the looming clouds overhead suddenly broke free and subsided, making way for a bright light, which was overwhelmingly bright, opaque, and multicolored. The light seemed to be headed towards Earth before zigzagging back to its original position. This time, witnesses claimed that their clothes, which were wet from the rain, had immediately been made dry, as well as the mud-covered ground surrounding them. Following this, the girls revealed 3 prophecies that were told to them. In the first prophecy, the girls claimed to have borne witness to a terrifying vision of hell, and were informed that the souls of sinners would reside there. They were then informed that the Great War, now known as World War I, would soon end. Lucia, the first girl to witness the prophecies, said that the war is going to end, though if people do not cease offending God, a worse one will break out during the reign of Pius XI. When you see a night illuminated by an unknown light, know that this is the great sign given to you by God, that He is about to punish the world for its crimes by means of war, famine, and persecutions of the Church of the Holy Father. As predicted, World War II did indeed end, and in the years after, there was a greater war, which we all know now as World War II. In addition to this, leading up to the events that started World War II, there was in fact a night of illuminated light, which the girls foretold. On January 25th, 1938, about a year and a half prior to the beginning of World War II, a remarkable version of the Aurora Borealis was seen in the skies over Europe. The lights were so intense that much of the population began to panic. In fact, it's reported that numerous individuals in Paris, France believed that there was an enormous fire just beyond the horizon. Many recall this as being the brightest Aurora Borealis event to date. The second prophecy states, "When you see a night illuminated by an unknown light, know that this is the great sign given to you by God that He is about to punish the world. To prevent this, I shall come to ask for the consecration of Russia to my Immaculate Heart, and the communion of reparation on the first Saturdays of each month. If my requests are heeded, Russia will be converted and there will be peace. If not, she will spread her errors throughout the world, causing wars and persecutions of the Church. The good will be martyred, the Holy Father will have much to suffer, and various nations will be annihilated." For most, this prophecy seems to foretell the widespread surge of communism in Russia, which had ultimately become the Soviet Union. Wars had been fought to end communism prior to Pope John Paul II dissolving the Soviet Union in 1984. Following this, in 1991, the Soviet Union was divided into 15 separate countries, with many believing that this symbolized Russia's religious conversion, fulfilling the second prophecy. The third prophecy is when the waters become a bit murky, as there's much debate surrounding its contents. In 1944, Lucia wrote out the third and final prophecy that had been revealed to her. The prophecy was written in a sealed envelope and given to a bishop. Lucia said that the prophecy was not to be read until 1960, so it was turned over to the Vatican for proper preservation. In 1960, Paul John XXIII opened the prophecy and read it, with the public waiting to hear its contents. However, this never happened, as John XXIII claimed that the revelation was not relevant to his time. However, many recall a story of John fainting when he first read the prophecy, claiming that it foretold of the Pope betraying his flock and turning his sheep over to Satan's slaughter. It's believed that John fainted because he thought that he may become the so-called anti-Pope. It's believed that multiple people since then have read the prophecy and also chosen to not make its contents public. However, nearly 40 years later, the contents were supposedly revealed. On May 13th in the year 2000, on the anniversary of an assassination attempt against him, the Pope visited the shrine of Fatima and made an announcement that the prophecy would finally be revealed to the public. The Vatican then informed everyone that the prophecy was the foretelling of the 1981 assassination attempt on Pope John Paul II. The passage reads, "After the two parts which I have already explained, at the left of our Lord Lady and a little above, we saw an angel with a flaming sword in his left hand. Flashing, it gave out flames that looked as though they would set the world on fire, but they died out in contact with the splendor that Our Lady radiated towards him from her right hand. Pointing to the earth with his right hand, the angel cried out in a loud voice, 'Penance, penance, penance,' and we saw an immense light that is God. Something similar to how people appear in a mirror when they pass in front of it. A white bishop dressed in white. We had the impression that it was the Holy Father. Other bishops, priests, religious men and women going up a steep mountain, at the top of which there was a big cross of rough-hewn trunks as of a cork tree with the bark. Before reaching there, the Holy Father passed through a big city, half in ruins and half trembling with halting step, afflicted with pain and sorrow. He prayed for the souls of the corpses he met on his way. Having reached the top of the mountain, on his knees he knelt at the foot of the big cross. He was killed by a group of soldiers who fired bullets and arrows at him. And in the same way, there died one after another of the other bishops, priests, religious men and women, and various lay people of different ranks and positions. Beneath the two arms of the cross were two angels, each with a crystal aspersorium in his hand, in which they gathered up the blood of the martyrs, and with it sprinkled the souls that were making their way to God. The portion that many believe was relevant to John Paul's assassination attempt was the line, "At the foot of the big cross, he was killed by a group of soldiers who fired bullets and arrows at him," though this has sparked much controversy amongst followers, with many claiming that John Paul's assassination scenario doesn't fit the criteria mentioned in the passage, as he was assassinated by a single gunman in St. Peter's Square. They also claim that the setting doesn't fit. There was no group of soldiers, and the Pope was never actually killed. Though, strangely, the Pope's attacker did claim that he felt a compulsion to kill the Pope, claiming he felt it to be some sort of a divine plan. The Pope, following the shooting, claimed that he felt as though Virgin Mary's hand had helped to deflect the bullet, leading to his survival. Since this revelation, the Vatican has repeatedly downplayed the importance of the Fatima prophecies. In fact, Catholic followers oftentimes do not believe in them, as they aren't part of the Catholic doctrine. Though those that do believe in the prophecies claim that the third prophecy does not yet seem to be fulfilled, or at least its contents were not entirely revealed, insinuating that portions of its contents are still yet to come. The girls who claim to have borne witness to these prophecies have all passed since then. The two cousins who accompanied Lucia actually passed in 1919 and 1920, 1 year after the visions due to a flu outbreak that had swept the nation. They are both buried at the sanctuary of Fatima. According to the girls' mothers, the girls actually predicted their deaths numerous times in the years prior. Lucia, however, lived to be 97. Throughout her life, she continued to privately report smaller, less substantial visions, with many believing her to actually be some sort of a psychic. She reported seeing Mary 3 additional times, once as a child, once in 1925, and again in 1929. 2 of these events were reiterating Mary's will for the first Saturday devotion, while another reiterated the downfall of Russia. She also claims to have known of her cousins' deaths prior to them taking place. In 1936 and 1941, she claimed to have seen visions of their death back in 1917. She also claims to have asked Mary if the cousins would go to heaven, to which Mary responded yes, but that she was to remain for a bit longer, in order to spread Mary's word and love to all of the earth. Lucia lived until February of 2005, when she passed away at the age of 97 from natural causes. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to click that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep updated with our videos. Once again, this video was sponsored by Oranum. Be sure to check them out. The link is in the description.